And the next main topic today comes to us from Mike, who writes, "Hey, John, since you saw Endgame, where does it rank on your list of favorite MCU films? Thanks." Okay, that's not a loaded question where you're asking it already expecting a certain answer, but okay. Let's play the game. Guys, Endgame is now out, and we're not obviously not going to give away any spoilers here about anything in particular, but this is, again, I can't emphasize this enough. You know, when Civil War came out, all I could do was drool over the fact that I think the greatest scene ever in comic book movie history, the airport scene in Civil War, happened. But this isn't a scene. This is a final hour, an entire third act of a film that I think is simply the finest third act in the history of the genre of comic book movies. Everything from the excitement, the emotion, all that kind of stuff rolled into one big glorious ball. I thought the first two acts were a little uneven, but the final act more than accommodates for all of that. And it's great. This is where I would say right now, I think for me, I think I have, out of the 22 film history now, understanding that the top 16 I think are all fantastic. There's only like 4 or 5 or 6 that I wouldn't say are fantastic. There's only 4 or 5 or 6 that I wouldn't say are fantastic. The top like 16, 17 are all fantastic. I think right now I've got Endgame at my number 5 spot in the MCU. Ahead of a lot of great MCU movies, but behind movies like the original Avengers. I think Infinity War is a little bit better. I think Civil War and Winter Soldier. Those are the ones that I still put ahead of it. But listen to that. Listen to that list of films. Winter Soldier, that a lot of people think might be the greatest comic book movie ever made. Civil War, which you'll find groups of people that think that might be the greatest comic book movie ever made. Infinity War, which people lost their minds over. And the one for me is still probably my favorite comic book movie of all time is The Avengers. But I do put it ahead of other great films like Guardians of the Galaxy. I put it ahead of great films like Doctor Strange. I put it ahead of other great films like The Black Panther. I put it ahead of other great films as that. So the MCU is, we take for granted how stacked the MCU is when you're looking at these 22 films. Mm-hmm. So I've got it right now comfortably in about my number 5 spot. That might move up or down 1 or 2 spots after another month or two, but that's where I put it for me. Now, I feel pretty confident that out of the 3 of us, I've got it ranked the lowest out of the 3 of us. But anyway, Greg, you just saw it. You know, you saw it more recently than me and Rob because you were walking into a screening as we were walking out.
I saw it like an hour after.
Yeah, you literally saw it right after us.
More fresh in my mind. Yeah.
So where would you put a film like Endgame in this incredibly huge, packed pantheon of MCU films? Where would you rank it right now?
You see, you guys saw it twice already, right? Both of you?
No,
guys?
I only saw it once.
I saw it twice. Rob saw it once, and we're all seeing it again tonight, I'm sure.
I do have tickets to go tonight. I can say the most confident answer I can give on this one is I would say it's my favorite Avengers movie, and that's including Captain America: Civil War. I would say that this is my favorite one in terms of the whole team up and the mashup or whatever you want to call it. It's really hard to talk about the film without spoiling anything, and I promise I won't spoil anything, but I really did love the drama in the film, and I love the character development in this movie, and I love the tone and the pace of it all, and of course the action. So yeah, I would say as an Avengers movie, it's my favorite. In terms of the MCU, I feel, I don't know if Robert already knows his ranking for it. I feel like it's the kind of movie you need. There's so much that happens. You need to absorb a little bit more. It does need a rewatch in order to properly go, you know what? Here's where I think it lands on the list of 22 films. I would say for sure it's somewhere in my top 5 right now. But the most confident answer I can give is favorite Avengers Assemble film so far.
Let me press you on this a little bit, Greg.
Sure.
While you're pressing, what films in the MCU right now are in the mix for you to maybe come above Endgame for you? What would be 1 or 2 of those films that that is in the race to maybe be ahead of Endgame for you? I do really love ahead of Endgame, huh?
You see, Endgame's the most fresh in my mind, but I have such a soft spot for the first Iron Man movie. I rarely hear anyone put that up there, but I watched that before I even read any Marvel comics, and that one got me into reading a lot of Marvel comics. So I don't know if Iron Man would be above there,
but it's in the race for you.
Yeah, I mean, it's such an on the spot question. I'm really not sure. You know, I'm really not sure.
On the spot question. I sent the question to you last night, buddy.
I love Guardians of the Galaxy a lot too.
Yeah, that's another fan favorite.
Guardians of the Galaxy would probably be up as a contender. The thing is, Endgame is such a heavy film, and I do really care a lot about just being entertained. And I wonder how often I could handle the weight of a movie like Endgame. In terms of rewatchability, and I feel like with ranking something like this, I need to know how I feel on a rewatch.
You know, it's funny you mentioned that because what you just said reminds me a lot of Ray, who does a lot of the graphics here. Mm-hmm. Ray, we went to go see Infinity War, and he watched it once, absolutely loved it, but couldn't watch it again. Because of the same kind. He was like, it was so heavy for him that he actually skipped. He didn't go watch another comic book movie for a while. Like, he just absolutely loved it, but couldn't do that. But anyway, Rob, let's put you on the spot now. If you had to right now, and granted, you've also only seen the film once, and obviously this could change over time as we marinate on it more up or down. But right now, where are you thinking this thing ranks for you in the pantheon of the MCU films?
Well, you know, I have to sort of preface, like with Greg, I really loved the first part of this movie. It's a science fiction movie that's dealing with a calamity and dealing with how these characters are adjusting and coming to grips with what's happened. And it's unlike any superhero movie that we've ever seen before, because they're not being super heroic. I mean, they're dealing with what does it mean to be defeated. And that's what happened in Avengers Infinity War. And we've never really seen that before. This movie couldn't exist. I see the 4 Avengers movies sort of on as their own thing. And I got to go back and agree with Greg. The first Iron Man movie is small. It basically ends with a battle between 2 guys over the heart and soul of their company, over their mission, about what they're doing in life. It's a very personal story. And you go back and you watch the first Iron Man is a very fine film. It's before there was the Marvel Cinematic Universe. And then we get to movies like Guardians of the Galaxy, which also exists in its own world. Yes, it joined it's tied to it, but as a movie, the story of Peter Quill and where it goes and the formation of the Guardians and how they discover this family unit that they all needed, that's like a movie unto itself. It's a different sort of a film. And the Avengers movies are you're putting all of these characters together that wouldn't exist without their individual movies up front.
Right.
So I think that stacking these movies and saying which movie do you like best in all 22 movies is a bit unfair, because they're different types of movies. And I think the individual Marvel films might be better movies, but as an experience and as a piece of blockbuster entertainment, I would say the 4 Avengers movies together are 4 of the most successful, big budget, sprawling, superhero, fantasy, sci-fi movies that have ever been made in any franchise anywhere. And I think that Endgame is such a departure from the first 3, at least, especially for those first 2 hours. It's a different. What I loved about Endgame is it was very different than any of the Marvel Cinematic Universe movies we've ever seen. Like Greg said, I love the drama of it. This movie works because these characters, you love them, and they're all hurting. And we're hurting as the audience. And it's like we're moving through this journey with them, and it goes for our emotions first. And that was something the Marvel Cinematic Universe couldn't and didn't do because they weren't afforded that opportunity. And I think they went all in. And from that opening scene on, I was like, oh my God, my heart is in this movie. From the beginning, man. And I was astonished by that. And I think it's a different experience, and it's a great experience.
All right, guys. Well, listen, for those of you, because I know a lot of our international friends, a lot of you guys have had a chance to watch it already. Where would you right now maybe rank Endgame in this pantheon, this incredibly stacked pantheon of MCU films? Jump on in the comments section and let me know what you think.